Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm glad you could make it in from Valley City. Dave, roads are good now? Oh, good, good. Fargo, we're doing a flood fight right now, so we're sandbagging. Interesting, you might all remember in 2009, we needed 6.5 million sandbags. And for this event now that we're having, which is mostly in the county, we need 200,000. And the city of Fargo, if we go to 38 feet, I need 20,000 sandbags. So the amount of work that's been done inside the city has been fantastic, and it's really interesting how our flood fight changes. Now, Ken's here, and he's not worried at all because he's got all his stuff done, but we're still working on it. Well, Valley City's got a little more work to do. Dave said he's had a couple more million or something to spend, right?
Things are looking good our way.
Yeah.
They're still able to open the dam enough to match the inflows, so we're good there. But like Fargo and the permanent flood protection, unlike Fargo, we aren't done. But last year we had to prepare for a flood, and with what we have done, we only needed 15,000 sandbags versus the 300+ thousand sandbags we did in.
So city of Fargo is almost like Valley City now.
Pardon?
We're almost like Valley City. We hardly need any sandbags.
You're right.
Mary, do we have some introductions? I think we have some guests here, don't we?
I think if we could have the guests in the audience introduce themselves, that'd be perfect.
Very good, thank you. Do I have a motion to give approval of the agenda? Is there a second? Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion approved.
Aye.
Okay, is there a, do I have to do a roll call first, Mary, to see if everybody's here?
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, roll call, please.
Altough. Bigwood. Bonesack.
Here.
Carlsrud.
Here.
Erdman.
Here.
Johnson. Mahoney.
Here.
Nilsson. Schmaltz.
Here.
Schmidt. Veen.
Here.
Very good. Now can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 6, 2023 meeting?
Jeremy's here.
So move.
Is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion approved. Motion approved. Ken, you have something to tell us today.
I do not. I think, looking at the agenda, there's some interesting issues legislatively coming up, so I think I will just hold and
Very good.
be at that.
We have Technical Advisor Committee. Al Grasser, are you on?
I am on. All right. Thank you, Mayor Mahoney. My report here for the Technical Advisory Committee, we met February 1st by video conference. And as usual, there was a number of orders of business that brought us together. One of the bigger items that we spent time on at the committee was negotiations that were going on between, the engineering team and the contracting team on contracts 1 and 2 regarding the Missouri River intake with Michaels. When they were doing work out there, they ran into some boulders that weren't expected on the site, and the discussions. So there were some differing site conditions, which is a legitimate action item for consideration of cost reimbursement, et cetera. The engineers had been working with the contractor on it for quite a while. To boil it down, really, there was some questions between what impact did the boulders have on impacting schedules and some costs and actions the contractor had to take, and how much of it might have been the contractor's techniques in installing sheet piling. And I won't go into any more detail today because I think Kip will probably update on some of that. But that's kind of what the committee listened to and tried to tussle with a little bit about, what was the right balance there. Very technical, very detailed, of which the committee, couldn't get into all of the details. But in general, we supported the engineering analysis and kind of direction they wanted to go with the negotiations. We didn't actually have a final dollar amount at the committee level. Our action was actually, committee acknowledging that there were differing site conditions and that, there might be impacts caused by boulders, and might be impacts caused by the contractor's methodologies. They were all contributing factors, and we gave some of our thoughts and then agreed to send the Red River Valley Committee negotiation team to continue negotiating with the contractors. But we kind of gave them our sense of where we thought the right balance might be. I think today you actually have what will be change order number 5 that I think is a result of some of that negotiations. So that was our first item of action. Maybe I'll stop if there's any questions there.
Any questions by the commission? No, you explained it pretty well, Al, but I think Dwayne mentioned them, they were bigger stones. You're saying these were boulders?
They're classified, the technical classification, there were stones and there were some that were large enough to meet the definition of a boulder. The definition of a boulder is not necessarily what you might think of as a huge, a boulder doesn't, maybe, I don't know if you can see me, but some of the
Yeah, we can see it.
boulder is not a really big material. So, but
I think Dwayne was referring to his rock picking days, so he was just a little smaller boulders. So thanks.
yeah, that's probably a pretty good representation of what they found, really.
Very good.
The other item that we talked about and made motions on, pardon me, I got to go back. The other one was change order number 2, or next change order number 4, which is the next item that we talked about, was involved with the Missouri River intake screen and structure and tunnel. The contractor ran into some coal seams out there, which is a different texture and a manner of material than what they were expecting. Again, they negotiated this one. I think it was a consensus negotiation between the contractor and the engineer of $33,256.35. The committee made motion recommending approval of that change order. We also, moving outside of the change order issues, we did get an update on the construction schedule on contract 5B transmission line. The contractor substantially behind projected timelines on that particular project. We didn't make any specific actions on that, and I think you'll get an update on that again probably today. One of the other actions that we took was presented to us the drawings and specifications for transmission pipeline east, contract 5C. The engineer went over those documents, and the TAC committee ultimately made a motion to approve those plans and specs and move them onto the board. The other action item that we took actually vote on had to do with initiating a task order for the geotechnical services on transmission pipeline contract 7. Again, we're back to kind of the preliminary, the engineering component of things. That was a geotechnical report services in the amount of $397,000. And again, I think actually the LAWA board had actually previously approved that, but we concurred in that in that award. Other than that, we did get various updates, of which I think you'll get updates today. operational subcommittee, some of the pre-qualification processes that are going on with contractors, and I think also some engineering services notifications to try to get that to the engineering community and maybe get some more even smaller firms involved in some of the project. Chairman Mahoney, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Al, appreciate it. So Mary, do we have to vote on both of these, task order 4 and 5?
Mr. Chairman, I think that we need a vote on task order number 5, but Kip, were you going through that or?
So task order 5, we can pass. Okay, yep.
Yeah, so Al did such a really good job on those change orders. We do require action on change order number 5, the differing site conditions, just because that was so much money. Al talked about there were boulders and there were some construction flaws. The claim started out at $3.2 million. After several negotiations with the contractor, explaining the boulders weren't all the issues, but some of their methodologies were issues, we did settle on $1.59 million. So 3.2 down to 1.59. The Red River Committee did approve that, and so did the Executive Committee. This is such a large change order that we thought it would require a vote by Lake Agassiz Board. In the end of this contract, so this is contract 2, there are items that the contractor did not have to do, like silt removal. So there'll be some credits coming back. So in the end, when this closes out, this change order's impact will have an increase of $500,000. So it's not a $1.5 million plus up. Because there's some credits coming back to us, in the end, this will be a plus 500.
Okay, now you're passing out item number 4. Mary, does that would probably take a change order for it, have to have a motion? Or no?
I'm not sure. I'm not involved with
Yep,
change
I couldn't
orders.
hear, sorry.
They just handed out a sheet here. It says change order number 4, not number 5.
Right, so Kim just got ahead of me there a little bit, that's all right. So change order number 5 is in your books. What she just handed out is the next one that we can talk about.
Oh, okay, so you want us to start with 5 and go back to 4?
Right, sorry.
A lot of people go 4 or 5, you know.
Yep, it's Friday here, sorry about that.
Can I have a motion for change order number 5, please? Is there a second? Any discussion? It's pretty good getting it down for 3.2. I like that, how we keep going. Can you help Bernie with his infrastructure costs down in West?
Bernie's pretty good at negotiating, I bet.
Roll call vote, please.
Alta. Schuler. Bonsack.
Yes.
Carlsrud.
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
Johnson. Mahoney.
Yes.
Riley. Schmaltz. Schmidt.
Yes.
And Veen.
Yeah.
Motion carried.
So now you want me to go to 4?
So yes, we'll go backwards. Sorry about that, Mayor. So change order 4 is being handed out. This is a small enough number where the general manager of Garrison Diversion can approve this. So we're bringing this to you for your information. The LAWA TAC did look at this too. So it's been through the LAWA Technical Advisory Committee. But what it is Al talked about it. So item 1, they did find coal, which required them more expense on their screens. And then item 2 is the 10-inch flanges that we installed out in the river for a small user like Washburn. That one you guys approved that a long time ago. It's just getting rolled forward now in a final change order. And then the last item that we rolled into this is the contractor under contract 2 hit a temporary plug that contractor 1 installed. So even though it's getting added to this, we deducted it from the first contract. So it's a net 0 in total, but it's included in this change order. So there's no action on this one that's required, just for your information.
Do you have a motion for change order number 4?
Also move.
Is there a second?
Second, Schmidt.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please. Are you ready, Kim? Roll call vote, please.
Altough,
Yes.
Schuler, Bonesack,
Yes.
Karlsruhe,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Yes.
Riley,
Yes.
Schmaltz,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
and Bean.
Yeah.
Motion carried.
Okay, Financial Advisory Committee, Maureen Storstad.
Yes, good morning. Can everybody hear me okay?
Very well, thank you.
No. Good morning, Chair Mahoney, members of the board. Thank you for having me to give this update. We did have a couple conflicting dates, but then Finance Advisory Committee did meet on March 29th in Fargo. We did speak with much of the legislative conversation that's going on, but I know you have that later on your agenda. A couple action items that came out of our committee brought forward to this board are included in your agenda packet. The first of which is agreed upon procedures. You're going to find that in tab R of your material. That lists the procedures that were approved by the Finance Advisory Committee to be brought forward to you. There's 7 procedures that we've listed there, including reviewing the bank statements and bank recs, making sure they tie to the financial statements. They'll look at the processes regarding membership and process billings. They're going to take a sample to make sure there's proper documentation and review of financial reports that go to the LAWA board for adequacy. And they'll also look at internal controls of both disbursements and as well as cash receipts to make sure those are properly in place, and they'll make any recommendations for improvement if needed. We didn't feel the need for a full audit at this time just due to volume of activity. That's something we may look to later when activity increases. But Ide Bailey will be performing those procedures. We had a second action item. We had a lot of discussion about branch pipeline reserve and funding recommendations for that. That material is found in your packet in tab S. Sean can help me with maybe more of the detailed methodology there if questions come up. But there's discussion regarding repairs that would be funded for branch pipeline in the event of emergency repair. Exhibit E had already of the project participation agreement had already provided calculations for funding reserves for the main pipeline, and we tried to emulate that in looking at an approach for the branch pipeline. So several recommendations are listed there. First being to fund that reserve consistent with the main pipeline reserve, and 0.05% then of the respective branch pipeline asset value is being recommended, and then that to be evaluated and adjusted annually if needed. Also, those reserves would be placed in a common reserve fund for the shared benefit for future use. And thirdly, there's a backstop from the main pipeline reserve if needed for branch pipeline, but ultimately to be reimbursed then from that branch pipeline reserve. With that, that was the basis. I know we had a lot of discussion about legislative matters that are going on, and I know, like I said, that's part of your agenda later down the list. But Sean, I don't know if you want to speak to more detail about that branch reserve funding or the methodology used to come to that 0.05%.
Sean's coming to the mic.
Maureen, I think, at a high level, you covered the approach very well. And so I guess I would, before going into too much detail, I would ask if there are any questions.
How did you
on the
decide
reserve
on the
recommendation.
percentage 0.05?
The reserve, so Mary asked us to take a look at a couple of different approaches, and so within the FAC agenda, we actually went through the approaches taken on WASA on the Southwest Pipeline Project, what's generated for reserves on the Northwest Area Water Supply Project. Then we also looked more specifically at the original recommendations that we made for the main pipeline. And in the case of the main pipeline, we, working with Black and Veatch, so A2S and Black and Veatch, when we developed the original financial plan for the project, we took a look at basically the renewal curve of the overall project. And that renewal curve, we basically cut it into, I'll say, decade-long increments of what's going to be required to be renewed and replaced on the project as the project ages over time, and while we're still in a debt repayment period on the project. And so in that case, through that analysis, we essentially determined the moving pieces and parts of the project, mechanical, electrical, instrumentation, and controls were going to be the key things we'd have to address in the next 20 to 30 years. We established a 20-year level on that, so what would be renewed, and that annual contribution for the expense we'd expect to occur across a 20-year period was 0.05% of the main pipeline level. We did not completely renew that for all of the branch pipelines, but given that they're a similar type of asset that also may have, think in the case of what we've been looking at Washburn, there may be an interim pump station with some parts and consumables, et cetera, that go along with that. Essentially just scaling that approach down to the main pipeline, to the branch pipelines, considering that analysis we did on the main pipeline. And the key thing here in the recommendations is that we may not have a lot of branch pipelines initially on the project. And so at 0.05% of, I think, $6 million, I think it was $6.2 million, it's about a $3,000 annual contribution in the case of Washburn that we were asking for in the example we provided. Initially, that's not going to be a lot of money. So if something happened right away, say there was a faulty installation on that, you would have the ability to reach into the core pipeline and then future reserves pay that back. We would, over time that will accumulate. Let's say we get 20 years into it, and we've got 10 or 20 years, we got $30,000, $60,000, et cetera. Eventually that we do believe that will become self-sustaining. But this whole recommendation on the backstop of the main pipeline would just be in case something happens really near term. So I guess with that, I'd stand for any more questions related to our approach.
Any other questions? Just an action item, policy? Right?
Both of them are.
Should I wait? I'll wait to the second one, then we'll do it all at once. Okay. Maureen, you're back on.
And I guess I actually did go through both of those action items, the first being the agreed upon procedures and the second being the branch pipeline reserve. So if you have any questions about those agreed upon procedures as well, I can answer those.
Any questions? Do I have a motion? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Schuler? Yes. Bonsack?
Yes.
Karlsruhe?
Yes.
Erdman?
Yes.
Johnson? Mahoney?
Yes.
Riley? Schmaltz? Schmidt?
Yes.
Bean?
Yes.
Project update, Kip, for what?
Mr. Chairman, I think that one, we needed two motions out of this. So that would have been the agreed upon procedures for Bailey to do that. But now we need another motion to the pipeline reserve methodology.
I think she said you covered them both.
She did. Okay, they can be at the same motion.
motion?
Yeah, they were the same.
All right.
All right.
I'll take executive privilege.
There we go.
Construction update, Kip. Oh, you're going to podium.
Is this on? Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Just a couple of photos for you. We haven't had a lot of construction going on in the wintertime, but this is contract 2 over at the Missouri River. This is the wet well, so the concrete structure in the ground on the land side of the river. What they worked on this winter is a 24-inch or 2-foot wall, liner wall around the inside of that structure, and then after that, they had to put up a divider wall, and so just brought a few pictures for you. So now you can see the liner is done. All those secants along the wall, they are now enclosed in concrete, and they started forming up the divider wall. The majority of it is rebar. They did that in 3 lifts. Here's the final lift. And I think we got, so this just came, new photos. So the 2 large openings are for 2 different versions of the pumps. So you have a low flow set of pumps and a high set flow pumps. And then that kind of on the left-hand side, that moon-shaped area is where the water comes from the Missouri River, fills up that bay, spills into these other 2 bays. So that was just done about a week ago. This is just looking down into one of those bays where the pumps would sit. You can see a window way down there which water will come through. And the last item that they're working on is placing a lid or a cover over the top of this for safety reasons. Depending on when we go in with the next contract, lid has to be on. We did get some flawed concrete planks, and so that is being held up for a little bit. Hopefully we get some new planks in next week, and this portion would be the last item for construction, placing the lid on. What's left is just restoration. So down near the river, we have to bring back some sand, pull out some gravel for the temporary roads, and then up at this site here, put some grass in. And that'll close that out. So we're, in my opinion, just weeks away from closing contract 2 out. I think that's all my photos. Okay, I'll go back and sit down and.
We'll be on tab T.
And then just a couple more. So when it comes to the pipeline, contract 5B, Garnick Construction is doing that work. They will be mobilizing May 1st with their crews. They're thinking that they'll start installing pipe about June 1st. So last year they got 1.5 miles in. This year they got 7.5 left to go. They're putting 2 pipe crews in, plus each pipe crew gets a cleanup crew. So there'll be 4 crews out there this year. They're really taking serious the schedule. Their schedule, they need to have all that pipe in the ground by, Thanksgiving of this year. So the president, vice president, and 3 other gentlemen came out to the board meeting on Tuesday, and they had a special board meeting with Garrison Diversion, and that's how serious they took it. They flew out, presented their schedule on how to get the project done this year, and so I think the board really appreciated that. Our board was pretty tough on them, asked some really good questions, and really held their feet to the fire, so that was good to see. So that's contract 5B. That would be the last contract they're working on to go with Lake Agassiz and Garrison Diversion's work plan. We do have contracts 5C and D ready to bid. So if we're successful at the legislature, we're ready to bid that, as long as with 6A and 6B, depending on how much funds come in.
Very good.
Any questions?
Any questions? Nope, that was clear.
Okay, and then tab T is in your board books. For your information, I won't go over that, just it shows what we spent on each contract, where we're at. As Al talked about, the contractor pre-qualification process. So we would like contractors to come in, fill out a pre-qualification process. The deadline was March 31st. However, we wanted to kind of go after about 2 more big firms. And so we extended that 3 more weeks. And so that will close in another week or 2. I believe, so it's all digitally, it's on the web. I think we've seen that 15 contractors did download the package. But of those 15, there's probably about 6 that would be qualified for this work. And so we're hoping to get a few more to pull that package down. And then the last item there for me is the statement of interest for engineering services. So if this construction effort grows, as if the legislature gives us $180 million, We've talked to you about growing the engineering services, the material testing services, the geotechnical services, basically building a bigger tent of services. We had roughly, I think, 17 engineering firms, material testing firms, geotechnical firms, surveying firms that basically submitted stating, yes, they would like to stay informed of the project and like to work on the project. And so we'll play that out over the next couple months.
Very good. Mary, you got the program schedule?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you would turn to tab U in your books, this is our program schedule, and I'll just cover that very lightly. That Kip already showed some pictures on the screen structure and tunnel at the Missouri River, but it shows that May 15th is supposed to be their final completion. He talked about Garney coming and talking about the current contract that's going for the pipeline, Contract 5B. That has a final completion of December 14th. And then Kip talked about the upcoming contracts for pipeline 5C, D, and 6A and B. And the engineering team shows that they would be ready for bidding, assistance, and award on July 3rd. So that is the quick update on the schedule.
It's always nice to see that 100%. Thank you, Mary. Planning level budget?
Yes.
B.
If you would please turn to tab V, this is the planning level budget for the ongoing work that we have going. I'll just kind of go down to the bottom. We've talked about the engineering that we already have going, but we are at about 57% complete with what we have ongoing. $139 million has been approved or ongoing, and we've actually expended $79.4 million, and we have $59 million outstanding. So as you're aware, the Red River Valley Water Supply Project is under construction.
Any questions? Legislative update.
Dwayne's name was on the original one, and now it says my
I
name,
think
but I
he's-
think
he
we'll
moved
take
your name
James.
on it, but we'll have to make
I
him
don't know
give a
why that
report here.
happened.
Well, Mary spent the last week there, but I would say legislatively, there was a lot of eminent domain bills in the legislature that we had to oppose this session, and they all went away. One got turned into a study, and then that even eventually was defeated. So as far as policy bills go, we've had a really good session. The money, we think where it's at in the House right now, we're good to go. If you'll remember, we requested 255 million, and we're at 180 right now. And so if we hold that 180, we should be in pretty good shape. We've got to figure out how to finance the match now, and so we're working on that with the two mayors. We did have legislative intent for over 900 million in the bill. That was still there. If you talk to a legislator, that's really important that we keep that in the bill. They don't like to do that because that always looks like they're encumbering a future legislature, which they can't do by the Constitution. But for planning purposes, and when we go to Washington, D.C. and try to get funding for this project from the feds, that's extremely important so that we can show that the state has got a big commitment to this project and are committed to it. So I think we've pretty much touched all our bases, and at right now, unless something drastic happens at the end of the session as they're trying to make the books balance, I would say we're in really good shape. I don't know if Mary's got more to add to that.
I think that the only other part to add is for the long-term low-interest loan. We use the Water Infrastructure Revolving Loan Fund. They did put an additional $100 million into the State Water Commission budget, that's Senate Bill 2020. And in there is $60 million for our local match to match the 180. So that is also added in there.
So the team's been doing excellent work. I just want to say that from where we started, we went into a meeting in which people did not want to do the 40 or 2% loan. and that would have increased local cost by double. So you'd go up 300 million, and it was just a little overwhelming to us that if that happened, it would very, very much paralyze the project. So I wanted to thank all the people who worked on that, and Mayor Dardis was very helpful. He's got a lot of friends out there. So it did help us to have a good discussion about that. But the present fix is good. I think the concern Ken has is that not necessarily long-term. So we will have to see what the legislative teams do long-term. It is interesting when you limit term limits, you don't always have people with history that understand, kind of what we've done in the past and how things go. So a little of us, it's a hope and a prayer that next legislative session will continue that 40 or 2% loan. But, it's kind of tempting when you see interest rates go up, hey, can we put our money somewhere else and make some money? And we got to keep them away from that type of temptation to keep to infrastructure projects. Let's get them done. And I think that the team just really kind of worked its way. And Representative Swantek and Ron Sorbach also have been really helpful to us. So if you bump into those two people, I'd say give them a shake and thanks for what they've been doing for us. Any other comments?
I would just mention that we had a high-level meeting with the legislative leadership down there that the two mayors attended, and I really think that the mayor's was a turning point in our funding, that really got their attention when we had the mayors there, that we weren't blowing smoke at them when we were telling them what we needed, and when both mayors were there, they sat up and took notice, and that was extremely helpful.
I thought it was when our banker talked to him, so. Okay. Mary, you're for budget analysis, tab W.
Sure. If you turn to tab W, please. This is the Lake Agassiz budget. So for 2023, it's for the first 3 months through March 31st. The income budget is for $610,000. Lake Agassiz actually received $214,000 with a remaining balance of $395,000. For expenses, total expense budget of $680,000. We've had expenses of $235,000, leaving a balance of $444,000. We always put in there the beginning bank balance on January 1st for Lake Agassiz was $498,000. You have received $214,000, meaning total available funds so far this year was $712,000. We've had expenses of $235,000, so the ending bank balance is $476,000.
Questions?
We do need a motion on that, and then do you want to do the bills at the same time, or do you want those?
Let's do bills paid
Okay.
too, so we can do both.
And then tab X is showing the bills that have been paid so far this year. I'd answer any questions if you have it, but otherwise they're also listed there on the budget.
So would like a motion to approve tab W and tab X.
Also move.
Second, Mark. Roll call vote, please.
Altough. Schuler. Bonsack.
Yes.
Carlsrud.
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
Johnson. Mahoney.
Yes.
Riley. Schmaltz. Schmidt.
Yes.
And Veen.
Yes.
Tab Y is just a summary of the dues and cost share paid so far?
Correct.
Just for information, right?
Yep.
Okay. Unfinished business, City of Washburn had a meeting, and I had requested from them if we did a project with them, what is the amount the city could afford in regards to payment. So I'm pleased that they finished that, and we will look at that. Kip, you have some ideas about that? You're working on something?
Yeah, we've updated that presentation to, at the direction of Red River leadership to make that more affordable. And so we'd really like to reach out to the mayor again and see if we can't meet with them next week, be our goal.
Good. So we will continue to work on that. Its legislative team seem very interested in doing an intake for Washburn and trying to make it competitive where we can kind of come in on that. Their FEMA grant went away, so they no longer have that to deal with, but we may, Mary, work with the Water Commission on that to try to get something going? Is that right? Oh, she smiles, okay.
I'm not working on this, so.
Oh, you're in this, okay, Kip, we'll work with people on that, okay.
Yes, yep.
Thank you. I just thought Mike here, so I thought he could help us champion that, so. Okay, new business, North Dakota Partnership Request, tab Z, Riley and Schuler.
I can speak a little bit to that, Mr. Chairman. We're just trying to keep everybody up on the same page. You know, rural water, we are full support of this project for sure. And with this big of a project and what we've appropriated for CFS for all of our districts, our 5 districts, we're going to be faced with a challenge to see where we're going to incorporate this water into our system, how we're going to distribute this through our systems. And so we're working on that as a group with 5 districts. Jeremy and I are kind of heading up the preliminary stuff. But there's a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of things that we're worried about. So we're trying to utilize Garrison Diversion. We've been talking with Kip and Mary quite a bit and trying to get their expertise, their knowledge on how we can help with this system. So we did get some federal grant money to help with some of this stuff too, but we're going to have a meeting with Kip here to discuss some of the other needs that we have as far as water supply, where we can get it, and what actually is available in our aquifers, what we have. So, and any questions, I'm sure Jeremy will answer them for us.
So this is a request of a new partnership, or this is a request of working with the team and coming up with a new type of arrangement?
Let's see where it goes, but I'm just hopefully that LAWA is supportive of, you know, working with those systems and trying to figure out how they fit into the Red River project. We haven't worked out any details or anything like that, but just making sure this group's wants them part of the project.
Okay, it's more that we're trying to work with LAWA and try to work out something. So do you need a motion, just an intent that we would be happy to do that?
Yeah, sure, yep.
I'll make the motion.
Ken, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any questions? Are these good partners? You guys okay with that? Roll call vote, please. Oh, question?
I just want to make one little comment. If you had a chance to read the letter, it's a very good letter. And it's also, you know, we just really need help with that water supply availability. You know, can we study the aquifer a little better? Is there the aquifers? Like, I don't want to get too far in the weeds either, but I mean, Kip and we'll talk about it afterwards, but it's more of, are we making the right choice for the citizens of North Dakota up in the northeast corner? We'll definitely use Red River Valley water if we can. If not, I mean, we've got that well water sitting right there. Yep. It's right there. We still need a pipeline, and we don't really know the needs 50 years out. We've all looked at it, we've studied, but we're just looking for just a little more information to make us feel a little easier at making the right choice, you know, so.
And you also have population growth, so I mean, what we're all projecting in this community is continued growth, so do we have enough water for everybody? So, yeah, I think that's a great story.
And then one extra thing is there's an NDSU study that was done in, I've got it in here, 07 or something like that. I've read it and I don't feel comfortable with that. We know what our spraying needs are, ranching needs, things like that, but we might even be looking at getting in chemical companies and, you know, we want to work with a lot of people to make sure we're making the right decisions. So we just really need the support of LAWA and hopefully Garrison to work with us. So that's my comments.
And just for the public to know, you were like pursuing an EPA grant as well, so the cost of this may come down a bit when we get something that maybe it's contributed on a grant dollar basis, right?
Yes.
Any other discussion?
I'm going to just make one comment here too. I think the purpose of LAWA is to look at all the areas in eastern North Dakota and what we could do for water supply, not just the Red River Valley water supply. So I think this fits in with what our original intent was going to be, although we have a lot of focus on the Red River Valley water supply, and the willingness for Garrison to help, I think is a great partnership.
Thank you. Now I can do roll call vote.
And just to clarify, the motion was to support the partnership with Lake Agassiz?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Altough? Schuler?
If I can vote, I'll say yes.
We'll let
Do you
you.
want to abstain? Okay. Bonsack?
Yes.
Carlsrud?
Yes.
Erdman?
Yes.
Johnson? Mahoney?
Yes.
Riley? Schmaltz? Schmidt?
Yes.
Veen?
North Dakota Insurance Reserve Fund Annual Meeting Election, Dwayne. Great.
Yeah, LAWA needs to send a representative to Bismarck, May 10th, 9:30 in the morning for the NDERF. I'm already going for Garrison Diversion, so I'll do it for LAWA too, if that's what you want. Otherwise, you need to appoint someone else to do it from LAWA.
Does anybody want to volunteer from Lawa? Would like to go over to Bismarck, have a nice meeting with Dwayne? You'll get him coffee and stuff, right? Any
This is Tom Erdman. I guess I could participate in the Insurance Reserve Fund meeting.
Yeah, and keep our rates down, will you, Tom? Can you kind of work on that?
Yeah, good luck with that one.
So if it's okay with the board, we'll have Tom Erdman to represent us for that. That'd be fine. The only other new business item is in July, I have a conflict, so I'm going to try to move the meeting to Thursday instead of a Friday. So I told Mary about that. So when you look at the July schedule, you will just move one day earlier, if you don't mind. You know, it's hard when you're away for a meeting. Bernie Dardis rarely takes a vacation. He goes to South Carolina and he misses a meeting and it makes the papers. I don't really like that. So I want to make sure I'm available for our meetings. So any other business for good of the order?
Mr. Chairman, we do need a motion on the Ender.
For Tom.
Oh, okay. Appointing Tom?
Yes.
Okay. There's a motion to approve Tom Erdman will represent us in the ND Insurance Reserve Fund meeting.
So move, Schmidt.
Move second, and I'll take. Good. Any discussion? Mayor Carls, you want to make something that says nice about Tom? Can you say something why you think he's such a good representative?
You know, thank goodness for the technology of the meetings that have taken place since COVID, for when, you know, you can't make it, but by golly, this is much better seeing people face to face, so I'm grateful for that.
Good. Roll call vote, please.
Altough? Schuler? Bonsack?
Yes.
Carlsrud?
Yes.
Erdman?
I don't know if I vote for
Yeah.
myself, but I'll say yes.
Yeah. Abstain? Johnson? Mahoney?
Yes.
Riley? Schmaltz? Schmidt?
Yes.
And Veen?
You guys are too efficient, or it's not even 11 o'clock. Do you want to be, Rob, do you want to tell us a story about the flood or something, or?
I've not filled a sandbag yet, but today isn't over, so.
So Sandbag Central, which we had for many years in Fargo, Bruce Grubb was a constant feature there. You would see him working daily and getting stuff done. And I have to regret to tell you, I've yet to see him fill a sandbag this year, so I'm hoping we can tempt him to go out, at least make an appearance. But it's been a little different not having him worried every day about how many bags we're gonna make.
At my age, you don't want to get injured, so you got to be careful.
Motion to adjourn? Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.
All right.